right? So in this week, the first topic we have discussed about is Assam Rifles. Okay, Assam Rifles, they have celebrated their, which one? 191st Rising Day. Okay, Rising Day means on this date Assam Rifle came into existence when 191 years before. Okay, so 1835, right? Because if you calculate 2026 minus 191, right? So what should be the answer? In CSAT, okay, you have to do this calculation within 2 seconds, right? So what is the answer? 191 years. So oldest, we can say, oldest paramilitary force that we have as of now, right? In India, Central Armed Police Force, we can say. It is type of CAPF, also referred by what? Paramilitary force. So oldest paramilitary force or oldest Central Armed Police Force of India. So 24th March 2026, Shillong is headquartered. Right, Shillong today is in which state? Meghalaya. So why is it headquarter of Assam Rifles? So before, Meghalaya was not a state. Shillong was part of which state? Assam. So that's why Assam Rifle. Led by, this is simple, Lieutenant General Vikas Lakhera. Tribute, okay, was given at War Memorial. Counter-insurgency recognition was given. That means the force has played a very stellar role as far as the counter-insurgency operations are concerned. In which region of India? Northeast region. That's where the force are largely deployed. That is event. Now achievement and highlight. So simple again, not very important from exam perspective, but 3 battalions they have been recommended, cited. 4 battalions they have been cited by the general command. You can say 8 Assam Rifle, because they are also divided into multiple this sections. Okay, so bravest of the brave, within that is 8 Assam Rifles have got this particular, okay, citation. Kirti Chakra, Saur Chakra, lot of medals they have won. Right. Now what we have to keep in mind from exam perspective, both from prelims and mains, is in mains we have to study a separate chapter, that is security forces and their mandate, internal security. So their brief history can come into, you might have to write an exam. So founded, as we have discussed, 1835. Now when the force was founded, it was not originally called as Assam Rifle. It was referred as what? Kachar. Kachar is a district. It is a district in Assam. That's why Kachar, Levi. And why was it instituted? Because 1835, who is ruling India? British. So British, why they brought this force into existence? So because that area, Assam is known for tea plantation, and British had a lot of tea plantations there. But from nearby region, tribals used to carry out raid. Okay, they capture and loot all the money and whatever you have. So to protect against tribal raid, they wanted a force. That's why they instituted Kachar Levy. That was its original mandate. But later on, what we see is that in 1914, you have beginning of which event? World War I. Okay, so World War I, that is when UK also participated, Great Britain we can say that time. And during that, they also brought the soldiers of Kachar Levy to fight alongside. And it is during those battles they proved their worth, mettle, okay, courage, valor, whatever you can think. And then they were renamed. Which year? 1917. And that's when they began to be referred as Assam Rifle. So Kachar Levy became Assam Rifle, as we have seen, due to the role in World Wars. They are also called as sentinels of the Northeast or friends of the people of Northeast as such, because they provide protection against every kind of threat that the Northeastern region faces. Now, as far as the role and mandate currently is concerned, which border we have seen in the internal security? Currently, we are following which principle? One border, one force. That means every international border of India with a particular country is guarded by a single force. So, entire Pakistan border, who is guarding it? BSF. Bangladesh? BSF. Okay, then we have which border? China. Who is guarding China border? ITBP, Indo-Tibetan Border Police. Okay, then Bhutan and Nepal guarded by Sashastra Seema Bal. Earlier there was Special Services Bureau. And then you have Myanmar guarded by who? Assam Rifle SS. So the entire Indo-Myanmar border of roughly about 1,600 kilometers of border length you have is guarded with them. And mostly because this area is known for insurgent activities, we have seen entire Northeast is engulfed with what? Insurgency. Largely insurgency is due to what factors? Separatism, you can say. Okay, most of the insurgent groups, what do they demand? Either they want a separate state within Indian Union, or the most radical of them also demand what? A separate nation. Okay, like Nagas, for example. Okay, their demand is Greater Nagaland. Okay, so similarly, several groups are there. Plus, because this area lies nearby, you have Myanmar, okay, further Laos, Thailand, and Laos. What is this region called as? Golden Triangle. Why? Because you have large scale opium production, drug trafficking hub and all that. And because the northeastern region have shared border, lot of drugs are coming from this area. So you have the growth of organized crime group as well, growth of terror activity, terrorist group as well. So that's why they have to every now and then launch counterinsurgency operation. So that is the main duty, internal security duties they have been given. Right. If you look at the Indo-Myanmar border on the map, yeah, this is the, like in examination they can ask map based question, which states of India directly share border with the Myanmar? What should be the answer? Which states? Starting from your tri-junction, this side what do you have? Tibet, okay, Tibet, Myanmar, India. So India, Myanmar, Tibet tri-junction, and then Arunachal, then you have the Nagaland, then Manipur, then you have Mizoram as such. So all the way up to here, India, Bangladesh and Myanmar tri-junction. So these, between these tri-junctions, almost 1600 kilometers as we have discussed, is the responsibility given to the Assam Rifle. Right, in 1935, they also, as you can see, 1 rupee used to be a lot, okay, during those days. So they have what, released a, what is it? These days people are using very less, I think. Okay. A stamp. Okay. Earlier you have to send letters, put a stamp everywhere, fix a stamp. So that time, okay, so they have released it for commemoration. So internal security duties, civic action programs, I think we have discussed, because what was felt by government, that when security forces are being stationed in certain areas, people, village, especially in village area, remote area, people are very fearful of them. Okay, they do not know how to approach them, how to talk with them. So that's why it was felt that they need to also have what kind of angle, apart from friendly angle as such. So for that, how they can be friendly with villagers? They cannot just start talking something random like that. Okay, there has to be proper way how they can collaborate, how they can like have interaction. So government gave a launch a civic action program. That means every security forces are given a particular amount of fund. So whenever they're deployed in areas where you need to have development, development means not large scale infrastructure, basic infrastructure. In villages might be there might be a tube well, okay, that is needed, or schools are there but they are in very dilapidated conditions, or roads are there but here and there suppose they are fragmented, broken, bad condition. So under those conditions, the CAPF including Assam Rifle can use those funds to help the villagers. So due to this, what will happen? People will feel a kind of friendly approach. Okay, they will experience the goodwill nature of these forces. That's why this has been added. So all CAPF, it is not only for the Assam Rifle, all the central armed police forces are working in the insurgency area, insurgency affected areas or Naxal affected areas, they are involved here. What is the purpose? Local trust building. So, why do you want to build trust of local people? That is one major reason. You want to gain some information, get some information, gather intelligence, then that's the best way. So that is one of the reasons. Now, modernization importance wise, advanced weapons and surveillance, enhanced operational capability. Right now, focus of government is on MPF is the program, modernization of police forces. Under this also, government is focusing upon modernization of all the central armed police forces in terms of arms, ammunitions, okay, use of technologies such as drones, surveillance cameras, night vision goggles and all that. So all these are being given to them so they can become more more strong force to reckon with. Enhanced operation capabilities, stability in Northeast, that is the main duty, responsibility this force has. Supports regional development as well. How these forces support development? One through CAP, we have this civic action program. Other, in many areas, you have risk to the life of people who are involved in development activities. Suppose a contractor is given contract to construct roads, but insurgents do not want roads. Why? Otherwise, police will come every day there, right? So that's why they want to operate in secrecy, in kind of vacancy of infrastructure. So that's why many times these insurgent groups, Naxals also for example, they kidnap, okay, they torture, they basically threaten the people that you want to come and work in our area, okay, we will kill you as such. So for against such kind of threat, who provide protection? Assam Rifle in the northeastern region. So by providing protection, what they are also ensuring? Development work is not compromised. Infrastructure development, institutional development, whatever you have. Recent example you can take of is in the Manipur. Government has decided to build fence along the Myanmar border. The problem is there, people were creating problem, nuisance, right? That no, this is my area, this is my village, okay, this is my house and all that. So in that case, the surveying party was given protection of what? Assam Rifles. So they went and then they ensured that all people are able to do their work, survey work, so they can understand where to build fences and all that. So that is the example of regional development. Plus government also has decided to recently declare this created as which kind of force? Future ready. Future ready means what is future of warfare or military operations or paramilitary operations? Prepare for future. And how will war look like in future? Operations will look like in future. Will it be more human led or technology led? Technology led. So we have to what? Incorporate technology in their working and function. That is what we mean by future ready. And I think few weeks back we have discussed about Assam rifle. I told you one more development took place. No, K9. Earlier they were using dogs, we have discussed. Now they are shifting toward indigenous dog breed, right? So that was development. That's how you have to keep connecting all the dots, okay, if the same topic is being repeated. So that is the first topic, Assam rifles. Then second one we have is why gold prices are falling despite geopolitical tensions, right? So gold prices since the beginning of Iran war, geopolitical tensions here simply means Iran war. So since the beginning of Iran war, almost 1 month has passed. Gold prices have kept on falling down. Okay, sometimes they jump up, but most of the time you can say trend is down. So what is the reason? Acha, why we have to discuss about it? Gold price increasing or decreasing? Because this behavior shows inconsistency. Generally, if you look at historical pattern, what would you see? Whenever you have geopolitical tensions, conflict, war, gold becomes expensive, okay, prices increases, but in this condition now prices has become to decrease. So that's why we have to understand. So what is the reason? Now why in discussion? First of all, gold price is falling sharply despite West Asian conflict. Means which conflict? So why we are calling it West Asian conflict, not Iran conflict? Why? Because now the war is not limited to Iran, Israel, right? US is obviously there, but apart from that, which other countries Iran have targeted? Iran has targeted all the countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, okay, Bahrain and all that. That's why it is no longer a war between two nations. It has become a kind of regional war. And because the bigger power is getting involved here, recently you have news also that Russia is helping Iran in intelligence and all these coordinates and all that. So it might also can become what? A kind of much more larger war, world war. You cannot say world war-like situation, but something closer to that if we are not able to resolve it in a near future. So that is the thing. So despite West Asian conflict, gold prices falling. Gold usually, why gold prices increases? First of all, because there is a lot of uncertainty. Like rupee you take. After war, what has happened to rupee? With dollars, it has kept on reducing, right? If you start from the beginning of the year itself, that time it was 90, okay, now in April it has reached recently 95, okay, almost. So that means there is a lot of uncertainty. You do not want to keep your all these things. Currencies are what basically, okay, so they are basically storing value, and if their value is reducing, that means you are losing money as such. So you want to keep your money in which kind of assets? Safe haven asset. That means you sure that no matter whatever happens, if you sell it somewhere in the future, you'll be able to get good value out of it. That's why people began to invest heavily in gold, because it is considered which kind of asset? Safe haven, right? And indicates overall macroeconomic shift. So this fall that we are seeing is an example of macroeconomic shift. Now, key reasons. First of all, why gold prices are falling? So three reasons are there. First of all, because this particular conflict is taking place in that area which is rich in oil and gas. Strait of Hormuz you would have heard about. So 20-25% of oil and gas passes through what? Strait of Hormuz. And not only it is a transit problem, all the major producers you have, Iran has targeted their tankers, okay, targeted their what you can call as this oil well and whatever area you have. Ports also have been targeted. Like Qatar, example you can take. India, 50-60% of India's gas come from Qatar. And the largest producing site of Qatar have been targeted. Okay, so there people are saying that for 2-3 months operation would be disrupted. So it means due to this what is going on? The oil prices are continuously rising because you have supply shock. So before war, just in the month of February, it was hovering around how much? Just around $70. After the war, it has went even up to now, it has reduced slightly, but it went as far as 120. Currently, it is hovering around 105, $106 per barrel. So oil prices rises. Now, if oil prices rises, you know that entire economy basically is driven by what? Transportation. So transportation become expensive. If transportation becomes expensive, everything will become expensive. Okay, imagine tomatoes are coming from village. Okay, earlier transportation cost was X, now it has become 2X. Right, what will happen? Tomato price will increase. So everything, food will increase, cost of merchandise, everything that you can think of will increase because everything is being transported. So globally, what is the risk? Rise in inflation. So due to higher price of oil, inflation risk is increasing. And because inflation risk is increasing, what central banks are doing? They're keeping interest rates higher as such. So if interest rates are higher, what does it mean? If you put money in bank, you earn, right, good profit, handsome profit as such. So why you want to take money from bank and put in the this gold, for example? People still are choosing to what? People means large institutional investors. Okay, retail investor does not have any role to play here. So big banks that you have, mutual funds that you have, hedge funds that you have, they still have decided to keep money where? In the bank. They do not want to pull it out from there and start investing in gold as such. So because of the expectation of tighter monetary policy that will be continued going ahead due to the uncertainty of war, the inflation risk is there, central banks are keeping rates high, so people still have invested in US bonds and all that. That is the first. Second, market factor wise, if you look, bond yield, same thing. If interest rate is higher, we'll have better bond yield, so people would buy US bonds, for example, treasury bonds and all that rather than gold. Second, also what has happened? Because if you think, oil prices are denominated in what? Dollars mostly. So if oil prices increases, dollar automatically becomes stronger. So people want to have investment in what? US dollar as such. So if demand of US dollar increases, demand of gold will reduce. Okay, that is general relation. Whenever demand of gold US dollar increases, gold demand reduces. If the demand of US dollar reduces, gold increases as such. Okay, so that's the thing. Also, if you look it from the perspective of Indian consumer, okay, earlier I said you, like for example, let us take a situation like $1 in the January was how much? Let us suppose 90. $1 now has become how much? 95, right? So earlier suppose 90,000 rupees, okay, per kg was gold. That means, or suppose like how much you can say $1,000, that was the price of gold. So you have to spend how much? 90,000. Now the price of gold is still 1,000, let us imagine, but now we'll have to sell how much money? 95,000. So you would not want to buy gold in this current situation. You want what? The rupee to slightly appreciate. Okay, and then Indian investor or other countries, you can also imagine, they would want to purchase gold. Purchasing gold currently does not make any sense as long as the dollar is becoming stronger and stronger as such. That is the other thing. Liquidity crisis and profit booking. That is other very important situation, because people who are investing, institutional investors, they are not putting all their eggs in one basket, right? They have what? Diversified assets. So some money they are putting in gold, some money they are putting, gold means commodities we can say, some money they are putting in oil and gas, some money they are putting in the stocks, equities and all. Now because of the Iran war, what we have seen? Indian stock market or everywhere across the globe, what we have seen? Stock market has fallen significantly. Nifty is down by almost 10-12% as such, right? So people are booking losses there, right? And people are looking this booking losses, and they are trying to buy more dollars as such, or dollar denominated asset as such. Or people also have invested more in oil and gas because they expect that future price of oil would keep on rising. So there they would earn profit. So they're taking money from the equities, but at the same time also putting money in crude oil. Other thing is also that many investors who are sitting on cash early, right? Now they think it is good opportunity because market has fallen significantly. So everything is cheap. Share of Tata Motors is cheap. Share of Mahindra is cheap. So what they are doing? Rather than investing in gold, they are buying equities. So both kind of things we are seeing here. Gold, other thing is that gold already has climbed too much. If you look at last 1-2 years, it has kept on moving at a very rapid pace. More than 56% to 60% return gold has given in 1 year. Okay, imagine Nifty or Indian stock market has given a return of 0% in the last 2 years. So that's why gold price already investors are saying that it is too much high. Buying at such a high price does not make any sense. So if the price becomes lower, we will again start buying as such. So all this we can say reason is why gold prices rather than increasing have either been muted or has declined as such, okay, in the recent time. So these are 3-4 factors we can analyze here. Changing safe haven, same thing we have discussed. US dollar dominant. In the short term, people are flocking to buy US dollar rather than gold. In long term, obviously, what will happen? If crisis continues for extended period, like months and months, then you will see some investment or money moving toward gold also. But as far as short term crisis is concerned, US dollar is winning. Central banks already have accumulated gold before. Chinese bank, Reserve Bank of India and all that. and RBI has increasing reserve also. So that's the reason why gold prices has climbed up so significantly. That is the second. Third is S-400 Triumph Air Defense System in India 2026. Some recent news we have seen coming out related to it. So briefly about this we have to discuss. S-400, where we have imported this from? Russia. So S-400 developed by Russia. In India, we are also calling it as what? Sudarshan. Okay, Sudarshan Chakra, part of the defense system, air defense system. It basically is long-range surface-to-air missile system that acts as a protection barrier against any kind of long-range threat, whether it is the missile threat or the aircraft and all that, right? So it is a part of what we can say, multi-layered air defense shield. Many times we have discussed this in the class, that you have shield against short range threat, medium range threat and the long range threat. Short range threat in India is largely encountered by which system? Indigenous Akash defense system. Medium range threat, it is provided protection by which system? Barak 8. Okay, Barak 8 is jointly developed by which country? India and Israel. And then the long range threats, they are encountered by which system? S-400. So that is the part of multi-layered. Okay, 3-layer overall we can say. Actually, you can use drone layer also here. Okay, so anti-drone. That will be the first layer. So we are trying to develop Durga laser weapon system, okay, to tackle drone crisis or drone attacks. So gradually we'll have 4-layer system: anti-drone system, Akash for short range, Barak 8 for medium range, and S-400 for long range attacks and all. So that's why S-400 was in news. Now multi-layer defense that we have discussed. Now multi-layered and long range, it does not mean that cannot target the aerial threats that has come very close to India, okay, or nearby the we can say this military hubs and all. So shortest it can target up to what kilometer? How many kilometers? 40 kilometers. Longest it can target how many kilometers? 400 kilometers. So that is the entire range of the missiles that are part of this defense system. 40 to 400 kilometers, it can intercept anything, whether it is fighter jet, whether it is the unmanned aerial vehicles, or even if it is missile as such. Okay, so that's why we can say it is covering what? A large scale or wide aerial threat of different nature and providing protection against such threat. Advanced feature. What is advanced feature? Today we know that we have seen the case of Pakistan's retaliation also after Operation Sindoor. What we saw, that they have sent a swarm of drones. So more than 50-60 drones are coming at the same time. And if you have one missile that cannot engage all this target, then what will happen? Some of them will be able to penetrate your defenses and will fall. Right? The same tactics we see being employed or deployed by Iran also. They are sending a swarms of drones, barrages of missiles and all that. So in such case, what you need to have? Such system that can track multiple targets at the same time. So as far as the S-400 is concerned, how many targets it can track? At one point, 300 targets. That means 300 aerial threats it can track. Tracking, attacking is different. Tracking means what instrument is tracking these threats? Radars. Okay, so on radar 300 different threats would be visible to you, and at the same time it can engage how many threats? 36. Okay, so every time you launch the missile, it will be able to engage 36 different threats simultaneously. It is having a panoramic radar system, that means 360 degree. No matter from which direction threat is coming from, it would be detected as such. Plus, it also has very high accuracy and speed at which it engages the this aerial threats at all. So that's the advanced feature. Now, if you get some brief thing here to understand, already we have discussed S-400. Also, you will see one thing. Every weapon that is developed by Russia, it is given its own name, S-400 for example in this case. But NATO give its different name. All the weapon system you will see. Okay, so in NATO terminology, what is the system called as? SA-21 Growler. Okay, so that's the same name used for S-400. This is true for every aircraft. Okay, every kind of air defense system. So SA-21 Growler. Okay, so that is the thing. 40 kilometer, 400 kilometer already have discussed. Now, what we have to understand here is, when you talk about S-400, it's not that you have one missile and you are like to fight with it. Okay, what do you have? You have entire system. What is this S-400 system made up of? First of all, what do you have? Mobile command post. Mobile command post means you do not have to keep your arsenal at the same place depending on where threat is originating from. You can then transport it via this mobile command post. So if you are fighting a war with China, you want to send it along which area? eastern area. If you are fighting war with Pakistan, you want such system to be where? Placed near Pakistan as such and all. So it is easier because you can easily move it. Second, it also has what? Launcher. Launcher that would basically send the missile to target the threat as such. And in this case, you can see several missiles you have, like 9M9, 9648, N640, N6. These are names they have given. No need to remember this. But overall, you can see all these missiles are having what? 120 kilometer, 250 kilometer, 400 kilometer. All this kind of ranges you have. Second, it also has fire control radar. Why fire control radar? Because suppose S400 system is attacked itself, right, by drones or by small scale missiles and all that. In that case, the fire can be easily managed. Okay, so that is the reason behind this. Launcher, already you discussed. In the launcher, how many missile canisters you have? 4 missile canisters. And in one S400 battery, you have how many launchers? 8 launchers. That means at any given point of time, you have total how many missiles? 32 missiles, okay, 8 launchers and 4 missiles in each canister. So 32 missiles you can launch at one point in time, can shoot down up to 80 targets simultaneously. So that is how it works. Mobile command post, launcher, fire control unit, and also you'll have the tracking unit somewhere that is tracking the missile. So that's the main features we can say. Minimum range against low flying plane, 40 kilometers, we have discussed that. As far as procurement is concerned, it was in 2018, the deal was signed with Russia. That time Manohar Parrikar was the defense minister. He played a very important role in ensuring that this deal is signed. So the total cost was $5.4 billion, and Russia has promised to deliver how many squadrons? 5 squadrons. Okay, 5 squadrons of S-400. Currently, what is the status? 3 are operational, okay, in the border areas. Already they are functioning, and this we saw during the Indo-Pakistan conflict as well. S-400 system was engaged. It is believed that it was able to shot down the Pakistani aircraft and missiles also that Pakistan has fired. And Russia has promised that by the end of year 2026, by this year, they will also send the remaining 2. The promised date was early itself, but why there is a delay? Okay, so Russia-Ukraine war is going on, so they already are very stretched, overstretched, did not have enough funding, did not have enough manpower and all. That's why there has been a significant delay. But they have promised that by 2026, end of 26, the remaining 2 units will be delivered. What is the strategic importance? So first of all, it is no longer just theoretical, okay, a system that we have. It has already proved its mettle in aftermath of Operation Sindoor as such. It has actively and successfully, it was able to engage the targets. Second, it has been integrated with the ballistic missile defense program and the project Kush, okay, that India has launched to further develop and integrate all the air defense system in a same grid. So network centric warfare we can say to some extent. Okay, what is the objective of India here? You have, we discussed 3 things: short range Akash, medium range Barak, and long range you have S-400. So India is trying to do that. They all not should be operating in silos separately as such. They should be operating as a single structure. So radar would target, okay, radar would track basically all the threats based on which kind of threat it is. It will then decide whether Akash should be fired, whether Barak should be fired, or whether S-400 should be fired. Okay, so we'll have proportionate response to the threat that we are facing as such. So for that we need to have integration. Okay, that is what we are also trying to do here. Counters China-Pakistan threat that we have discussed in both cases, because if we get 5, we can engage on the both side of the border. Okay, it will be enough. 3 on one side, 2 on the other side, depending on the situations and such. And overall, most of defense experts and Indian Army also, they have stated that if it is inducted in the full battalion, full strength, it can be considered as what? Backbone of air defense. It can protect, okay, all the critical infrastructures, military infrastructures, and even civilian areas and infrastructure as such. Right? That is the S-400. So very, very important, make sure that simple basic facts you can keep in mind, which country has developed it, how much we are using and all that. So in examination prelims, they keep asking questions from this topic. Now next one we have is agri photovoltaics, agri PV. Okay, in short it is called as in India. So agri photovoltaics means 2 things you have: agriculture plus solar photovoltaic cell. What is agriculture doing? How agriculture is relevant for us, important for us? Food basically. Right? That is the most important use. Otherwise, why you will do agriculture? So food. Debate was food versus what is the role of this photovoltaic cell? Energy. So food versus energy as such. So where to use the land? Because earlier the problem is if you're using it for energy generation like solar plant, you cannot use for agriculture. If you're using for agriculture, then you cannot use for solar generation. And the problem with solar generation is that it require large area to produce per unit amount of electricity as such compared to other sources that you have. So that is something we are trying to balance by using the concept of agri photovoltaics. We are balancing food and both energy security of India. It has been linked to PM Kushum Yojana was launched. About 5,000 crore of funding has been given to this Yojana in this particular budget itself. Okay, go through this, what is the full form? Not required overall, but you will have understand. So, Krishi, Uttam, some Vikas and all that they have said. So, that is the thing. And solar targets, what is solar target? We want to produce 300 gigawatt of energy in the near future. How will you produce it? Only if you bring more and more area under solar photovoltaic cell. So, what we are trying to do in agri PV or first, what is agri photovoltaics? So, it is such kind of system where you are having dual use of the same land. Okay, same parts of land you're using for what purpose? Growing crops, and the same parts of land you're using for generating solar power also. How are you able to do so? Now you are not using the entire area for one activity. You are putting panels in such a manner that they are not disturbing the crops rather than they are supporting the crops, right? So this is the picture which is example of this. What you can see that on both sides you have the pillars. On the pillars what we have put? Solar panels, and in between the space that you have, that also can be used for what? Cultivation purposes. So we are cropping also, we are generating energy also. That is what we call as the concept of agri photovoltaic, combination of both or dual uses of both. So what is the benefit of it? Creates beneficial microclimate. Think what can be the benefit for crops by having such kind of structure in the field? What can you benefit? Think about it. How crops will be benefited if it is covered by solar photovoltaics? First is weather crisis that you have. Okay, in the temperature inversion we have discussed about the frost. So many times when frost or hail, for example, recently we have seen thunderstorm. Hail fall, frost fall, when it happens, it physically damages the crops. In such situation, now it will act as a what? Protective barrier. Right? That is the first thing. Second, also what will happen? The water losses that you have in the fields during irrigation or when the water is being taken by the plants, if it is open, in India where you have tropical climate, evaporation losses are what? Very, very high. When you are having a shelter structure, like you can see the crops are in what kind of shadow, especially in the mid-noon and all that. In that cases, water losses will be minimal in nature. So efficiency would increase. Okay, you will have to provide less amount of water in the field as such. And already that can be this solution for salinity problem that we are facing. What is the main cause of salinity in the soil? We have seen it is due to the over irrigation, over extraction of groundwater and all that. So there it can be beneficial. So beneficial microclimate can create, improves protection and both efficiency of crops. So that is what government is trying to say here, the benefit of agri PV system. Now agri PV system is not of one type. Overall across the world, if you look, it's in installation and traction. Total 4 types of agri PV system you have. First is what you call as elevated, that we just have discussed in the last photograph, where is panels above the crops directly. This can be example. Okay, so you have the panels lying above the crops. Second is row based. Crops are grown where? Between the row. This last picture in the last slide that we have seen is of which kind of system? Row based. So you have multiple rows. Between each of the rows of solar photovoltaic, what you are doing? Growing the crops as such. Third is vertical, fence like bifacial panel. That means you have both sides. Vertical is also called as solar tree, many times the term is used. So this is pillar and you have one photovoltaic on this side, other photovoltaic on this side. Why bifacial? What is the advantage? Sun rises where? In the east and sets in west. So in the first half of day, this would get more energy, and the second half of day, this would get more energy. So due to this, what will happen? Energy generation would be more efficient in nature. That's why we are thinking about having a vertical structure, fence like bifacial panel. So both time of day we can generate energy. And other is many time when you have greenhouse system, like vegetables we are growing in the greenhouse system like this here. Above the greenhouse, what you can put? Again, solar panels like this, okay, in the integrated system you will have. So elevated, robust, vertical and greenhouse integrated, these are the 4 major type of system we can see being developed across the world, not only India. Benefits, as we have seen, what is the benefit? Income diversification for farmers. In India, we know farmers are mostly small and marginals. They are anyway suffering problem of input cost is very higher. Crop yield sometimes is not very high, so that they are not able to generate enough revenue, income. So now the same piece of land which they own, they can use for 2 purposes. They can do cropping like earlier, but at the same time, energy which their field is generating, this energy they can sell, okay, sell to the distribution companies, discoms we can say as such. So what they are doing, same piece of land, 2 sources of income, energy generation plus agriculture, right? Plus goats will also be happy because they are having shelter here, shade, in the shade they can graze upon. Water conservation we have discussed, because what do we have? If you remember in the Narmada river, I told you, Narmada canal, Sardar Sarovar Dam, what they have done? They have covered all the canals with solar panels. What is the benefit? We are transporting water over dry area, high temperature areas, water will keep on evaporating. So you will have water losses. Plus that land is not used for any other purposes. If you put solar panel above them, you are preventing evaporation, right? Reducing evaporation we can say. And at the same time, you're using the same land for 2 purposes. So that is the same thing we are doing here. So water conservation, weather protection, as we have discussed, what would happen? Right. So against hailfall, against frostfall, such kind of system can protect us. And overall, it is also going to support rural development. Okay, so more energy can be generated from the rural areas, and this is very important to understand because we are having very high potential as far as solar energy generation is concerned. And the reason behind this is simple, that majority of India lies in the zone. You can say tropical, and above you have subtropical zone. So this part of India, we can generate solar electricity almost throughout the year, except few weeks and months of the monsoon that we have. This side of India, at least in summer, we can generate a lot of solar energy, electricity and all that. And if you try to link it, okay, that's how you have to think if you're writing answer in the examination. It is not only from the energy generation, clean energy and all this, also it will help us in what? Right, help us in dealing with geopolitical shocks. Like Iran, why we are so much concerned about Iran war? Because we are heavily dependent on what? Energy. And one of the major use of the energy is what? In the case of electricity generation as such. So to some extent we can then shift to the cleaner energy and we will have less problem as such. So weather protection supports rural development. These are some of the benefits of agri-PV. Importance for India, solves which dilemma? 2 things we have discussed. Food versus fuel. Okay, now the same parts of land you can use for food generation, food growing, as well as fuel generation, energy generation. It also supports the government's target of 300 gigawatt of solar energy, right? India, if you have read, it has been part of which alliance? India and France both have come up with ISA, International Solar Alliance, right? So that is also where we can get benefit from it. Plus, it also would help us in achieving our target of net zero emission by 2070. Net zero emission means carbon emission we're talking about. So I think last class also we have discussed. Net zero means what? It's not that we are not emitting carbon at all. It's our emission and absorption is balanced. So that's why we are having net zero, right? And the biggest culprit as far as the carbon dioxide and all the generation is there, what do we have? Thermal power plants, coal burning, right? So when you burn the coal, that is large, because the entire coal is what? Nothing but carbon itself. So currently, if you look, almost 70% of India's electricity is generated by which kind of power plant? Thermal power plant that produce electricity by using coal. So if you shift from coal to clean energy, nuclear energy, solar energy, wind energy, we will be able to achieve this target as well. Plus it also aligns with the vision of PM Kusum Yojana as we have discussed. Plus it will provide an additional boost to the rural economy, okay, as such. Because if you imagine that if you are privatizing solar energy generation, okay, that is going to happen anyway. So can they use this rural areas without adequate infrastructure? No. So what they need? They need proper power distribution system, they need proper roadways, okay, everything like this. So because of this, we can say additional infrastructure development we will also see where? In the rural area. So not only income would increase, but also the stake of the private participant, government participant to cause development in rural areas will also be higher. That is how we can understand the significance. Now, what are the challenges and way forward? The challenge first of all is whatever is challenges, you reverse that. That would be your way forward solution. So currently it is very high cost. Installation cost is very higher. And second is many experts, agricultural experts have said that you cannot use it anywhere in the entire India as such. Okay, in any kind of cropland or farmland. You have to look at what kind of cropping pattern you have in the area, then only determine it is good or not. Because many crops are there, they are requiring high photo period, okay, or photosensitive crop that require more sunlight as such. So in that case, if you put solar panel above them, what would happen? They will not get abundant sunlight. If they cannot get abundant sunlight, what will happen? Productivity or yield will decline. That is one thing. Other thing is that you have this field here, right? What you are saying, that here I will have one row of solar panel, then you have other row of solar panel, then you will have other row of solar panel. In between do the agriculture. Okay, so it looks good on paper, but the problem is that it's not that you go there and directly put seeds and next day it sprouts. You need to carry out a lot of things there. Example, what you need to do? Okay, so imagine you have rows everywhere. So what will happen? It will create problems. Okay, tractors are plowing and they are striking in this rod and everything like that. So basically it is fragmenting the field. Okay, so that would also create problem in what? Reducing the yield or such. Okay, fertilizer and all that we can say. So that is the problem that we have. Second is dispute. Okay, that can arise. If farmer tomorrow says that I do not want solar panel, okay, I am not producing enough rice as I used to produce 5 years before. So how will you do that? Whether you will uninstall it, whether you go and fight and this in this court and all that, how you will manage this dispute? There is currently no provision and no discussion about that. So these are some problems, hurdles we have to cover. Regulatory gap, as you have discussed, same thing. Plus data is limited. Currently, only in entire India, I think roughly 50 sites are there where we are running this system on the pilot basis. So how is it influencing agriculture? How much energy are we able to generate? Whether it is profitable or unprofitable. For that, you require what? A relatively larger number of sample size. Then only you will have empirical data and enough empirical data. Based on that, you can make a broad policy and start using it everywhere in India as such. So currently, we have to expand our pilot project itself to gather more data. Then only we can be very much sure that, okay, this is a good step or this is a good way of tackling food versus fuel debate. Policy clarity advice needed by government. Financial incentive is something that is required also. Farmers need to have something. Regional specific planning, why? Because crops variation, we have some where you require crops that require shade, need shade. Some crops require this sunlight. Then you have maintenance issues also. Because it's not that one time you install solar panels and then come after 5 years to check it. What is going on? You have dust that keeps on getting collected. Strong winds are blowing. Okay, hail fall. You have the birds that are moving. So you'll have damage, destruction and all that. So you have to keep on continuously carrying out which kind of operations? Maintenance operation. Okay, and other, I was reading this agriculture scientist has stated that suppose that here a lot of dust has been accumulated. Okay, if rainfall has taken place, in rainfall what do you have? A lot of chemicals are dissolved and all that. So in that case, if you simply wash it, for example, okay, these harmful chemicals will go where? In the soil. That will cause soil pollution. That soil pollution could also adversely affect what? Your crops that you're growing. So you have to be very much, right? That's why we're talking about that. What you need to do? You need to expand this, collect all the data related to what are the problems, challenges, whether yield has decreased, increased or not. Then only you can think of expanding it at a national scale or regional scale as such. So in current situation on paper, this looks very good project. It seems to be solving all the issues, food versus fuel. But what is the limitation? These limitations. And what are the problems? The lack of enough data. That is where we have to work upon. Okay, collect more data and go through, tackle through all these challenges. The next last issue is related to judgment of Supreme Court that came recently about women in the armed forces. Okay, so March 2026, the judgment was related to what? Ensuring gender equality in the defense forces. This has been going on, debate is going on for several decades, we can say. It's not something new, but new decision has come here. So constitutional and institutional development as far as the women's participation in the defense forces is concerned. Now, what are the key issues? As per the report that Ministry of Defense publishes every year, based on that report, Supreme Court has stated that it seems there is a systemic gender bias in the defense forces. Systemic gender bias means it is not biased by 1%, 2%, 5 officers, but entire systems seem to be negatively biased toward women as such, and this is reflected in their annual report, grading report, or what you call as ACR, this performance report overall, you can understand, C is some term. So their female officers, female soldiers are getting what? Relatively low ranking as compared to their male counterpart. Okay, and this has been case not only for couple of people but for entire men versus women comparison if you make. So low grading in the ACRs compared to their male counterpart, and assumption of short term services, because many of the officers, senior officers, think that why I need to give such a high grade, because anyway after some time women will leave the forces. Okay, they'll be there for only short period of time and all that, right? So because of this low grading, what Supreme Court has stated, that they are suffering from facing the disadvantage as far as their career progression is concerned. So low grading basically you can say is acting like, what is the term that you use? A glass ceiling. It is acting like a glass ceiling or having effect of glass ceiling as far as the women's participation in defense forces are concerned. So first of all, Supreme Court has stated this has to be rectified. Why this has to be rectified? Because the current situation points to the violation of these constitutional guarantees, okay, that constitution gives to every person in India. What does it violate? Equality before law, okay, Article 14 as such. You are treating male soldiers, female soldier differently simply because of gender, nothing else. Second, Article 15, what it tells? There should not be any discrimination on the basis of sex, gender and all that. There we have some discrimination. 16 is, it also is not providing equal opportunity to the women soldiers, women officers and all that. Male officers are being given higher ranking, that's why they're able to climb higher. They are able to get promotion at a rapid rate compared to women. So that is also, it is violating. So it is a clear-cut violation of 14, 15, 16. That's what Supreme Court has stated. Also, the matter is about permanent commission. Okay, many of the time experts have suggested that women should only be given short service commission in the defense forces. Short service means about 10 to 14 years of service. After that, you retire. You do not have any pension and all this kind of things. And permanent commission is you work till your retirement days, that is between 60 to 64 that you have. After retirement, you will be able to get all the benefits, pensions, gratuity, whatever you have here. So earlier, most of time, what recommendation was? That a woman should be only selected in short service commission, should not be made part of permanent commission. Supreme Court stated that it is not right. Permanent commission to the women is constitutional obligation. So defense forces will have to give them wherever it is required or wherever it is possible. Why? Because it ensures dignity, fairness and equality. Okay, the constitutional values that we have discussed. So that is the overall, you can say, constitutional basis of the decision. Now, if you briefly look at the history of evolution of women participation in the armed forces, it began during the British era itself, 1888. That's when you have the first participation of women, but it was not in the combat duties. It was in the form of what? Military nursing services. They were attached as nurses, okay, to care for the wounded people, care for the injured people and all that. So that was the first. So this is important. Okay, other evolution not that important, but this point you should keep in mind, because UPSC prelims, they can give question and a statement like this, that participation of women in military only began after the independence of India. True or false? Okay. So this year, 1888, very, very important year that we can keep in mind. Then next development, significant development happened in which year? 1958, when you have dedicated corps made for the women in, they were basically they're included in part of which corps? Army Medical Corps as such. Okay, so doctors and all, they began to be deployed here in the Army Medical Corps. 1992, you have the WSES entry, that is also related to women's short services. 2005, you have 14 years. Earlier, only entry was for how many years? 10 years. Okay, in 2005, it was expanded to how many years? 14 years. So short service commission, women can now be recruited under short service commission for 14 years. Okay, so that is 2005. 2008, PC is what? Permanent commission, but in the limited branches only. Women can enjoy permanent commission. They can work till the age of retirement, but only in limited branches. 2020 was a historic judgment when you have the Babita Punia judgment, okay, as you can see. So Babita Punia judgment has Supreme Court saying there that permanent commission should be given in all the branches and fields that all the branches of army operates. It should not be limited to only non-combat duties, can be limited, it can be expanded to all other, what you can call as the structures that you have, institutions that you have in army as such. So this 2020 judgment expands the scope of women to be included as a permanent commissioned officers in large number of Indian army branches. So this name you can keep in mind. Okay, Babita Punia judgment, go through it once, okay, briefly what it is. What is the current status and challenges? So first of all, now because of the Babita Punia judgment, what we have seen, women have been inducted as a fighter pilots, okay, as a this combat duty also in the Indian Air Force. They are also being deployed as a naval commanders in the Indian Navy, we can say. Many of the women officers are there working on the Indian naval ships and all that. Permanent commission in the army branches, okay, after 2020 they have been given. And most importantly, 2021 was historic year because National Defence Academy, which recruits the candidate who become later commissioned officers and all, only earlier male candidates were permitted. 2021 NDA opened its door for the female candidates as well. So women candidate, they can also join NDA. And most importantly, to reflect all these changes, Government of India took a decision and it sent all women unit, you can say. The entire unit was made up of women soldiers only, so women personnel only, so all women unit. Because you know that India keeps on sending its paramilitary forces, military forces to participate in the operations launched by United Nations, peacekeeping missions overall, we can say. So United Nations mission in Liberia. Liberia is a country in the Africa. So there, as a part of your mission, the entire women unit was sent to reflect the role of women in the security forces. And okay, still, despite all these development that we are seeing, okay, all of these are very positive development, but combat roles, Indian Army still has kept limited to the women as such. Combat means active duty. Okay, that means infantry you have. Okay, for example, so they are not sent on the border to fight war and all. Okay, so this is where the areas where you have the non-participation of women as far as the current situation is concerned. Final insight is definitely by looking at the evolution since 1888 till 2026. One thing you can say, what we are witnessing, improvement in gender equality. More and more women are now being inducted in the different branches of Indian Army. But still, what remains? Structural barrier. Okay, structural barrier still remains. Need for further reform that has been highlighted by Supreme Court in this particular decision also. Also, we can compare with US, right? In India, how many people are in army? 1 million. Within that, what is the percentage of women? Only 4%. You compare with the US Defense Forces, what is the participation of women? 16%. So 4 times more, okay, as far as India is concerned. So that's why still we can say, despite all this gender equality improvement and participation of women, we can say we have to long way to go. Okay, we have to catch up at a much more fast rate because still the participation is minimal. Okay, 4% is very low rate and this percentage figure as you can see. Now, what are the challenges? Why women are not being given due status in the army? So several reasons are there. First of all, biological factors come into picture. Okay, most of the active combat duty of Indian Army and all require heavy physical exertion demands. Training standard is very high as such. So many times they think that it will not be suitable for men. Okay, that is the first thing. Second is most important. Okay, this is something you have to keep in mind. It can be connected to Indian society as well. And these things you have to study. Patriarchy and all that you will have to study. Cultural and societal bias. If you think about Indian Army, still most of the soldiers, most of the non-commissioned officers, junior officers, if you look especially, where are they coming from? City or village? Village. Okay, village is still, what do you have? They are still living in conservative kind of system. So many times they cannot accept that women should be working with them together. Plus you do not have such kind of infrastructure. So many times what happens, if people are there, main soldiers are there, they are living together, they have same barracks, same camp and all. Okay, can women live together in the same barracks, same camp? Okay, how will you manage them? So these things become kind of a barrier and they are not able to accept this as such. So this exists, cultural and societal bias, because the background of most of Indian soldiers where rural, patriarchal, conservative mindset prevails that also affect decision making at the higher levels, right? Because you have taken into consideration the feeling of lower, this people at the lower ranks. Limited combat role opportunity, I told you. The problem is that in combat role, still not only in India, you will see generally that many times countries are not very liberal in this regard to send women to fight on the front and all that. Guarding duties now they have begun to give, like BSF guards Pakistan border. So during peace time, you will see women battalion also guarding the Pakistan border, but active duty is something we have not seen being given to them. So that is the limited role. Work-life balance and family constraint also create an opportunity for the officers to neglect women or give low rating as we have seen before, because what is in their mind, that they will have children, they will have marriage. After that, what will happen? They will be more involved in the duties related to household and all that. In that case, how would they manage all this together? So that can create problems. Plus maternity leave they will need. Okay, so due to this, what they need? They need such people who can be permanently present there. So that also create a problem. So how women will manage work-life balance, how they will, right, get free from family constraint and all that. So that can be one reason. Second, last already we have discussed what is the challenges. Infrastructure and facility based challenges, because you cannot give same infrastructure, same facilities to both men and women. That would create problems such. Okay, so sanitation practices and all that you have. So this washrooms, bathroom and all that. So you need to have proper infrastructure, especially in the border areas. So these challenges have limited the involvement of women as far as Indian defense forces, even paramilitary forces you can include there. Same logic applies there as well. That is the last topic. Now if you look at few questions with reference to agri photovoltaic, what is the correct option? A, B, C or D? This is correct or incorrect? Correct. This is incorrect or correct? Okay, because evapotranspiration will be less due to shade. It is correct or incorrect? Correct. See, solar panel efficiency increases if they can be cooled. Okay, if they're continuously getting sunlight, they become very hot, efficiency reduces. So what this evapotranspiration, crop transpiration is doing? Below you have crops. Crops are sending water vapor. They collect here, condense, provides what kind of effect? Cooling effect. So the transpiration by crop produces cooling effect on solar panels that increases their efficiencies. What is correct option? B. Okay, 1 and 3 only. So that's the first. Huh? No, they are directly like this. They have. How will build solar panels? The tree that we have discussed, it will be like this. Below what will have? Okay, here we'll have pole. Right. Then Supreme Court judgment, permanent commission for women is based on constitutional guarantees of equality. True or false? True. Article 16 deals with provision of discrimination on ground of sex. True or false? 15, right. Babita Punia case expanded permanent commission to multiple branches. True or false? True. Okay, so what is correct option? A, 1 and 3 only. Right. Then decline in gold prices. What are the factors? All. Okay, interest rate is rising, so it is beneficial for people to keep money where? In the bank. Dollar is strengthening, so they are buying dollar more rather than gold, and bond yield increasing, so bonds are being bought rather than dollar. That S400 system. Which of these are correct? All three. Only this limitation of S400 is if aircraft is moving at a very low height. Okay, in that case they will not be able to detect it properly. But if aircraft is moving at their normal elevation, then stealth aircraft can be detected easily. Okay, ballistic missile can be intercepted as well.
They are not efficient in cruise missiles.
Cruise missile, like any kind of missile. Okay. Efficiency will work on both. Sorry, the S400 system will work on both cruise missile.
Missiles travel in very low altitude.
No, low altitude they travel, but it's not so low altitude. Drones and aircraft, because you can move at very low elevation. Okay, almost like you can move very close to surface itself, helicopter and all that. Okay, in those cases they will not be able to target. Radar should be, radio wave should be able to travel certain distance and then get reflected, because radar is basically tracking it. Okay, so cruise missile can be tracked. With reference to Assam rifle, what is the correct option? One and under which ministry? Okay. About Assam rifles, two things you have to keep in mind. Administrative control is exercised by Home Ministry. Operational control, that is exercised by Ministry of Defense. That means when they are carrying out operation, right, that time they are guided by Defense Ministry. But if they are simply talk about salaries, pensions, transfers, posting, promotion, these are controlled by Ministry of Home Affairs. That is what I mean by administrative. Administrative means transfer, posting, promotion, all these kind of things, right? Salary, pension and all. And operational control means during their operation when they are fighting at the front lines. So that's all.